Vodafone, official sponsors of the Irish rugby team. Team of us. Everyone in.
It's spinning! It's spinning! Jonathan Sexton has made it!
Do you feel moderately happy?
No, I feel like I've been kissing my sister, I suppose.
In the pocket for his drop goal attempt. Here he goes, O'Gara! He's done it! That surely is the Grand Slam!
We target players all the time. That's part of rugby, isn't it? Let me know.
Sexton, wonderful pass and Stockdale finishes!
There'll be more than grenades. There'll be full tanks and full shells landing on the Aviva.
Grand Slam winners on St. Patrick's Day at Twickenham.
Now then, let's reflect on the weekend's rugby. We're joined by Rory O'Connor of the Irish Independent. Still in Rome, I hear, Rory?
Last man in Saigon, Joe. You look awful lonely.
I'm feeling lonely. So what are you doing all day? Is you sipping espressos by the Spanish Steps, wandering around, having some ice cream?
A little bit of that and a little bit of an autopsy on Ireland's performance. A bit of work to be done first, but yeah, it's nice to be here. It's sun was shining, so it's all good.
Well, the body is fairly battered. Matt Williams, we have not spent enough time together in the last 2 days, so come on in.
Joe, I missed you the last 12 hours.
Yeah, we've so much to catch up on. So before we get into things, Joe Schmidt here. It's funny, Dave Kilcoyne described the dressing room atmosphere as like that of a defeat, really, and the body language and the facial expressions in the press conference with Joe Schmidt and Peter O'Mahony fairly similar. So here is some of what Joe Schmidt was saying in the press conference if you didn't see it.
There's a sense of relief because we didn't play as well as we would have liked, and because we were down 16-12 at half time and we're up against an Italian side that have proven in this competition that they're tough to beat. I'm not sure it was that dissimilar for Wales or that dissimilar. Certainly when they played away in Scotland, they finished that game really strongly, and so I think they've looked at about 3 10-point differentials approximately in the 3 games so far. So there's a sense of relief because when we did create opportunities, I don't think we made the most of them. And, when we were building some positive attack, we either made errors right before half time. It looks like we might get that differential we're looking for, and that gives you a level of confidence. The ball was snatched off Connor, and suddenly they go the length. And it looked in the ruck that it was something that we'll look back at, and we'll look back at how well we chased back, and we almost stopped them. And fair play to Luke and Marisi to finish it. So at the end of all that, you are relieved. Even probably the last phase of the game sums up the performance to a degree where Jacob Stockdale does an incredible job from the in goal out to the halfway, one man to beat, and the pass doesn't go to hand, and we knock it on, and we're left scrambling around on the ground trying to grab the ball. Not too dissimilar to the one with Keith Earls, where he gets through the line without being touched, and then we can't finish on the back of that either. So we've got to be better than that.
So Matt, the swagger of 2018, the energy, the efficiency, the cohesion, the faith in each other and the game plan, all, if not quite gone, it's on the ropes.
Well, we've got to keep a little bit of balance here, Joe. Like, they've only lost 1 game. They're not playing well. That's the factor. They're not performing. As I said to you yesterday, as a coach, process gets you the outcome. If we focus on the outcome, and not the process, you won't get it right. And their process is poor. But they've still beaten Scotland and Italy. But we all can see they're playing poorly. But the margins are so fine. I just wrote down here last year, 2018 against France, the last second with Johnny Sexton. Wales, well, if Stockdale doesn't take that intercept to Wales, come back and score it. Scotland butchered 4 tries like they did this year. And so Ireland just won the Grand Slam, but they won it. It was marvellous. They played superbly against England. They just beat New Zealand, but they did, and it was magnificent. And now the form, not the class, but the form has departed. Whether that's temporarily, we'll see. But I don't think it's panic stations, but I've sort of been a bit of a lone voice in the last few years and getting a fair bit of crap for it, saying that I think Ireland's attack has been poor. And with the exception of the England game, the first half, on St Patrick's Day last year, which was absolutely magnificent rugby, this year has brought it out as well. But what's really let Ireland down is that they could have that boring attack, but they were so precise at the breakdown and so precise with their passing and so dominant in the physical contact zones that they got away with it. And that's deserted them. Their passing yesterday was very poor. I probably would have to go back to the last time they lost to Italy, when Declan Kidney's last game, to say when I'd seen an Irish team pass as poorly and handle as poorly as the boys did yesterday. Mm. Now, all of those things are very fixable and you can remedy them. And as I said, I don't think it's panic stations or anything like that. That would be very wrong. But, you know, it is concerning, and it has, with this Irish team, the way they play, they have to dominate. We know that if they're not up at half-time, they don't win. That's gone. That trend goes back to when Joe started. And so when they're just a little bit out of sorts like they are now, they really struggle to put their game together, and they're really struggling at the moment. We could see their body language, which people said to me, I was catching the plane today, and a couple of people come and said, well, what's that mean? You know, body language in sport is so important. If you read across all the advisors on sport, from Dave Aura, the great kicking coach, Ali McCaw, the wonderful coach on mindset, they all talk about your physical stature on the field, be it a tennis court or a rugby field or a GAA field. And the guys looked absolutely shocking yesterday. There was no talk, no leadership. And that shouldn't just come from Peter O'Mahony. We can't blame him. That's everyone on the team. There was zero talk, and that came across, especially at line-out and set-play time, as a fear of failure or doubt, a lack of confidence, which is just extraordinary for a team that's just performed the greatest year that Irish rugby's ever seen. So it is a conundrum right now, a real question mark on the whole part on why this has occurred.
So, Rory, concerning, we're not quite at panic stations, as Matt says, but concerning is the word.
Certainly, I think from outside the camp, it's very hard to tell what's going on because, 3 months ago they were bulletproof. They just looked so on top of everything that they were doing. And I'd even go back 12 months to when they beat South Africa.
I tell you what, we're going to get you in a better line is the best thing. We're talking to Rory, who's over in Rome. We'll get you sorted out in a better line in just a moment. There were 15 handling errors, Matt. It felt like more. There were 5 line-outs lost. Sean Cronin had a difficult day. It is worth stating, though, that the line-out malaise continued even when Niall Scannell came on, so you can't put everything at Cronin's at Cronin's feet. That did continue when he went off, but it was symptomatic of just a weirdly error-strewn day, a malaise. Would you share the sense a lot of people have that against France and Wales, this Irish team are eminently capable of turning this thing around very quickly?
Oh, of course. Of course they are. If you come back to the line out, you had a new hooker. Relatively speaking, let's say he's been in the team for a very long time. So, but a new starting hooker, 2 new, relatively new second rowers, a different main lifter in Dave Kilcoyne as a number 1 lifter, and you also had Geordie in there who was a major lifter in the line-out. Now, for people outside of rugby, so what does that mean? That they missed those line-outs catches by 4, 5, 6 centimetres. But when you do those changes, and they did the changes to give people time against Italy, and that's the correct thing to do. Joe did the right thing, but that's what happens. You just lose that little bit of cohesion at times, and then you have all these young guys trying too hard. Alton Deland, you could throw him. Alton Deland dropped a sitter off Conor Murray. You could throw Alton Deland that pass 25 times, and you'll catch it 25. And for some reason he dropped the city yesterday. Shawnee O'Brien comes off the end of a line out and throws a ball that's just in front of Conor Murray. Another good line out win, and Johnny Sexton throws a ball that's just in front of Keith Earls, and they miss it. Like you're saying, why is this happening? Why do they do that? But if all those passes are 2 centimetres, 5 centimetres, 4 centimetres, the line-out throws and the lifts are 2 centimetres higher and shorter, it all works.
Yeah.
So there's no doubt they could turn that around. But what again is concerning is why that has occurred. And to me, it's psychological. It's sport. It's sport psychology. It's not physical. These guys are tremendously conditioned. They're very well organised. They've got great conditions at Carlton House. They've got wonderful coaches. Why has it happened? There's just something in the psychology, and that psychology tends to move and spin on very quickly. But it can be intervened in. As we saw Wales play pretty poorly their last 2 games and come out against England and play what was quite a magnificent game of rugby and one of the best Welsh performances we've seen in many years. So yes, the team's very much capable of turning it around.
The other point, of course, to make is, and this is a simplification of the issue, but when Ireland were going so well last year, I don't know how many times we said that the half-back pairing are effectively the best pairing in the world. I know Murray was missing for the New Zealand game, but bar that, they were pretty much both fit and in very good form for the whole of 2018. So, I mean, when they're both off full tilt, it's going to affect the team dramatically, you would have to presume. So if they can get back up to speed, then you would think that will take care of a whole lot of ills very quickly as well, Matt.
Yes, without doubt, Joe. I still, I suppose I'm a little bit pedantic here. I must say that Aaron Smith and Barrett are an exceptionally good pairing down in New Zealand, and I think if I said, well, the Irish pair are definitely 1 or 2, and we could argue about it, but they're certainly not 1 or 2 at the moment, and they're just out. Now, we know Connor's coming back from a long-term injury. I actually have a suspicion after watching some tape after our TV commitments yesterday, Joe, and I think Johnny might have that same lower back issue with on his right hamstring there. I noticed a bit of strapping that I didn't notice during the game, and he handed over the kicking duties to Connor. I just wonder if he was also slightly carrying a hamstring or a lower back problem that affects your sciatic nerve there that he had last year, and he was off. But again, I would say he's, for all us old 9s and 10s, we try to stick together and blame the 1 to 8 in front of us. If your forwards aren't laying down the platform, it's a bloody hard day to be a 9 and 10. And I didn't think the forwards laid down any platform because they kept dropping, not just the forwards but the backs. Everyone kept dropping the ball. They could get no momentum on in attack. And Joe sort of referred to that in his comments there. They just couldn't get a game rolling forward. Even just before half-time when they were in the Italian 22, they looked like they were rumbling well. And then out of the blue, the Italians steal the ball out of Conor Murray's hands. Was it offside? Was it a penalty? It's a tight one. But what resulted was an Italian try. And they went in at half-time down. So all this pressure comes back on. Pressure on the scoreboard comes both ways. And look, Johnny's just frustrated out of his tooth. I didn't think he should have done what he did yesterday and kicked the bag and everything as he came off. I thought that was if he was 19 or 20, you'd say, "Come on, mate, wake up to yourself." And he's a 32-year-old, player of the year, world player of the year. He just shouldn't show his emotions like that. But it is a sign of how frustrated he is. And we know Connor's got a long-term neck injury that he came out on Saturday and spoke about for the first time, which I admire him for. And I think Connor should have done that a long time ago. We all have great sympathy and empathy for him. They're both wonderful players. These aren't people that we're going to ridicule or throw away quickly. But both of them are out of sorts. And I think Johnny could get into his stride a bit quicker. I think Connor's got a bit of a longer road with that neck injury, having lost so much muscle off his left side of his body because of the injury. But they're great. They're great players who are out of form.
Yeah, it's going to have a big effect on the team. You used the word conundrum at the beginning of this conversation when we're trying to explain what's gone on with this team in recent times. So in that vein, and this is just a theory, I suppose, that we can tease out, but you half mentioned it yesterday. We didn't have too much time to tease it out. Joe Schmidt has announced his departure. That is another differential with this time last year. The team, everybody knows that the end is in sight for Schmidt, and there is the Alex Ferguson comparison that people so often make in these instances. And the phrase lame duck manager is generally, I think, used, but it's far too harsh in this instance. There's nobody saying there's anything lame about Joe Schmidt, but there is the end date, and that is a differential, and that is an interesting dynamic. We can say that much with certainty. We don't know what effect it's having on anything.
Yeah, and the naming of his successor from within the same management team. Look, some of these things are subliminal. You know, they're not like major catastrophes. But it's amazing the number of times this has occurred where teams do go into form slumps. We had it in Australian Rugby League this year in Sydney, where there was crazy talk of coaches that had only had a year to run on their contract, and they're told they're leaving, and had agreed to another club at the end of the 2019 season, and it just became untenable, and the contracts were all brought forward. It's very, very hard on a team when that occurs. Now, I don't know if that's a major factor. I don't know. And this is the problem, as we say, conundrum. We've got to put into that some speculation. You know, where are our 30-plus players, as in our 30-year-olds? There's sometimes it just stops. You know, Johnny, Connor, Rory. You know, where is their form right now? And there's all these little things and what does that create? That creates doubt. What gets rid of doubt? You come out and kick France's bum by 30 points, and now all doubt is gone. You know, all doubt is dismissed. I remember being in a room once when we were in a form slump with the team I was coaching. We had all these things written up on bits of paper around the room, and an old voice from down the back said, "You know what fixes all this?" And we said, "What? Winning." And it does. It just gets rid of it. But when a team comes into, especially a team like Ireland that has just been so incredibly successful, come into this sort of slump, these possibilities are spoken about, and we have to. I mean, that's just the. We're not accusing. There's no pointing a finger. This is just realities.
No, absolutely. And the alternative would be that there might be speculation about what Schmidt's intentions were post-World Cup, all the way up to and including the World Cup. That wouldn't be a very good situation either. Rory O'Connor is back with us, I think, from Rome. So we've just been teasing out different aspects of this whole thing, Rory. Nothing would shock us, nothing... well, it would shock us, rather, if Ireland didn't come out and perform against France, I would put it to you. I guess the worry here is that was sort of meant to be the case over the weekend, that Ireland had, you know, a gap week and they were going to wrestle back momentum, and Rome was the perfect opportunity to do it. Now they have to wrestle back momentum against France after a 2-week break. So you didn't actually give us your take on the performance. Your line just kind of went before we got to hear your thoughts on it. So you're at the stadium. I was mentioning 15 handling errors. We know about the line out. It was as kind of dodgy in the flesh as it looked on TV.
Yeah, there was a real sense that the energy was with Italy, and the sense I have is that they sailed into the England game thinking they were top of the world, and everything that they did that week and the week in Portugal, you know, fed into that. You know, they felt good about where they were, and that defeat has taken the legs from them altogether. And you know, I think, you know, obviously the way they're playing invites all of the kind of things that you were just talking about with Matt there, about, you know, whether it's Joe going and Andy Farrell and that sort of stuff. I just think their confidence has been just obliterated by that one performance and the way they were almost emasculated by England, and the fact that they turned up for that, you know, what was a huge game, and just didn't seem to have all of the things that made them great in the first place. And I think none of us expected them to be, their confidence to be as brittle as it seems to have been, but it's just blown kind of that veneer that they had, so, you know, right out of the water. And suddenly all those question marks that they may have been basically pushing down in the back of their minds are suddenly coming out into them, and they're just playing with such inhibition. You know, they're fighting with themselves. Everything seems to be a struggle. You know, Sexton and Murray, you know, kind of always looking angry. Even when Murray scores the fourth try, a bonus point try, where once they would have celebrated regardless of the fact that it was Italy. Now he was almost apologetic at the end of it. And Italy had been to the earthquake site from last year earlier in the week. They came in with a lot of emotion. They targeted this. Obviously, Conor O'Shea really is just dying for this first result, and they threw everything they had at it, and they just brought a real level of energy. And while look, they're Italy, they make mistakes. They seem to be able to get over their mistakes much better than Ireland did. Every mistake Ireland made seemed to feed into the next one. It just became this kind of, it almost, just kept escalating. And in fairness, they got in at half time and pulled it all together. But, I mean, you say you expect a performance against France. I mean, there's very little evidence to suggest that they will improve their performance against France, bar bringing in a load of kind of fit again players. But the concern is that they're a bit undercooked in the way that the players that are playing now are undercooked. And they've already used 34 players. And it's just getting away from them a little bit.
Yeah. No, it's a fair point. I guess I'm almost basing that on credit in the bank and not much else at the moment. I mean, it's almost like 2018 went so well, Rory. The team is so quick now to get frustrated with itself. There's so little tolerance for things not going as well almost as it went last year. That can almost be the price for reaching the summit and reaching the heights that they reached last year. That almost their resolve and patience and tolerance for things not quite going well is not very deep, and there's almost Joe Schmidt used the phrase "trying too hard," or kind of what's going on? We're the number 2 side in the world aspect of this thing.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think they've spoken quite a lot. It comes up in press conference that that they're kind of chasing the perfect game, and while they know they can never achieve it, it's just this goal that they've obviously been talking about internally. And yeah, if you're a perfectionist and everything's going wrong, I mean, how do you deal with that? I mean, have they wrapped themselves up too much in that? And they almost need to just go back to trying to enjoy it. That they're basically, there's very little pressure on them in the last 2 games in terms of results. They're the outsiders going for the championship. They're playing France at home. They should be trying to relish, what's in front of them rather than getting hung up on what's behind them. But that's easy for me to say here. They're clearly, reading and hearing everything around them. They know what people are saying about them. They can't even try and, they didn't even try and hide behind the result yesterday. They were quite upfront in saying that the performance is nowhere near good enough. But they almost need to park it and try and just kind of almost forget about it and try and enjoy the next couple of weeks and try and lighten the load on themselves, because it just seems so burdened by the pressure, and it's just not healthy for them at the moment. They almost need the Six Nations then get back to the provinces and try and win the Champions Cup.
Well,
give them a different focus.
That's almost the point I was going to put to Matt then, because Shane Horgan freaked the hell out of the whole country, Matt, by daring to mention the 2007 World Cup. And we should stress, he said there were only slight echoes of it, and this is a completely different set of circumstances. But 2007 left such a mark that I think everyone sat up a bit straighter when Shane said he was getting that slight feeling. I wonder as well, on Rory's point about just, being done with this Six Nations, tournaments have their own lifespan, and you can just get momentum, as Ireland did last year in Paris, and 1,000 small things that you can't plan for almost align, and there's a powerful collective force, and that was 2018. And for whatever reason, when you get off to a bad start like Ireland have this year, 1,000 small things don't align, and everything's very codependent, and there are knock-on effects, and it's just messy. But you go through cycles and things have a shelf life, and maybe the optimistic note here is, even if things don't go brilliantly in the next 2 games, you just park the Six Nations, people go away for a while, injury woes are put to bed hopefully, and when everybody gets back together again come summertime for pre-World Cup camp, for whatever reason, the mysteries of collective psychology, for whatever reason, things can just sort of click again and feel-good factor can come back. Am I crazy to suggest that as a possibility?
Last time I heard talk like that, I think it was the pro-Brexiteers in England, mate.
It's all going to be fine, though, right?
Everything will be great. Just trust me. Let's just keep going forward now.
Yeah, okay.
Jokes aside, Joey, look, you're right. Tournaments have a life of their own. But you do have to come into a tournament in a positive frame of mind. Look, this is why teams... we were talking in studio the other day, who's still got the record for the most number of international victories in the way, and we're saying it was South Africa under Nick Mallett. That's so long ago. I think it was 18. Shane Jennings was saying to me, I haven't checked that stat, but please don't quote me, but I believe it's 18. It doesn't matter if it's 18 or 20 or 19. The point is, teams don't do it because it's really, really hard to do. Like, Ireland could not keep up the form that they did last year. It was just impossible. So a little bit of adversity, remembering they've only lost one game, and it was against a very, very fine England performance. A little bit of adversity is very, very good about now before a World Cup later this year. If you're just cruising along and you're winning everything, that's where I'd be concerned, because when the adversity hits in September, rather, how are you going to cope with it? A little bit of adversity now is good for this group. They've had the great wins, they've had the accolades, they've done incredible things, and they deserve every word of credit that they've been given. They were absolutely sensational. Now they've got some adversity. That's healthy. That's healthy for them. It won't be healthy if they lose to France and Wales. That's bad. If we listen to Will Greenwood, the great England centre, who said, coming into a World Cup, you want to lose one game, but not anymore. Georgie Gregan talking about, I remember many years ago talking about Australia's run to that 2003 World Cup final that they shouldn't have made. They weren't the number 2 team in the world at that stage, but saying how they'd got an energy along the way. And this is a thing about tournaments that rugby people aren't used to. I remember the great hockey coach in Australia that used to go to all the hockey World Cups and talk. He spoke to Rick Charlesworth, was his name, just a genius man, a member of federal parliament, a doctor, a test cricketer, a hockey player, and coached Australia to gold medals at Olympic Games. Your classic underachiever. And he used to say that at tournaments you have to find days to get energy into the tank, not out of the tank, because you're losing it all the time. And what Rory's described there, which so well about the players, is what we're seeing. There's energy seeping out of the Irish players in this tournament, where last year there was energy being put in.
Yeah.
And if the energy is sapped out in these last 2 games, that's bad. There needs to be some energy put back into the system here. And so I think the next 2 games are really, really crucial, Joe.
Right, okay, fair enough. We're going to park the Ireland chat for just a moment. I do want to get your thoughts on the other games. Mike has texted in to say the Schmidt leaving shouldn't have any effect, lads. Look at Wales, Warren Gatland leaving, they're playing well. Same with Steve Hansen, he says. So it's a fair point. I guess it was very much brought up in the we're discussing this as a theory mould. So we're going to take a short break, and then we're doing a talk Wales, England, and France, Scotland as well. France coming to Dublin in 2 weeks' time. Short break, and then we're back with the lads.
Monday Night Rugby on Off the Ball.
With Vodafone, official sponsors of the Irish rugby team. Team of us. Everyone in.
Welcome to the constituency complaints line. Please hold.
Feel like you're not being listened to? News Talk wants to give you exclusive access to a local TD by getting them out of Leinster House and into yours. So if you want a local TD to walk in your shoes for a day and experience the issues that affect your daily life, we want to hear from you. Go to newstalk.com/TD and register now. Take home a TD, exclusively on News Talk.
250,000 Irish people live with blindness or visual impairment. I'm Victoria Smurford, and my daughter Evie is one of them.
I have a progressive eye condition with no cure.
Fighting Blindness is the only Irish charity funding research into treatments for sight loss.
Their work gives kids like me hope for the future.
Blindness can be cured through research. Please help us find a cure sooner. Donate now at fightingblindness.ie.
Thank you.
Every brand has a story. Some are built over decades, others over centuries. Discover the German car brand, meticulously engineered over 120 years to bring you our cleanest, most efficient engines yet. Discover Opel. Come and celebrate Opel's 120-year anniversary event at your local Opel dealership. Choose your perfect 191 Opel, then choose your preferred offer, like 0% PCP or HP finance, a guaranteed minimum of €3,000 scrappage, or 3 years free servicing. Opel's 120-year anniversary event, from now until February 28th. Visit your Opel dealership for more. Opel, the future is everyone's. Lending criteria, terms and conditions apply. Hire purchase agreement provided by Bank of Ireland Trading as Bank of Ireland Finance.
It's giving your teammates a lift to training on Saturday morning.
Right, girls, everyone in?
The Sunday kickabout in the park, or sneaky five-a-side after work. It's the Liverpool fan, hoping this is gonna be their year.
Yes!
As Coca-Cola, we're celebrating where everyone plays because we're a nation of super supporters. Share the passion. Coca-Cola, official soft drink partner of the Premier League.
The excitement builds. A new era begins as the Republic of Ireland take on Georgia in a crucial UEFA European qualifier, Tuesday, March 26th at the Aviva Stadium. Come show your support for Mick McCarthy's first home game back in charge, as the boys in green look to qualify for Euro 2020. The Republic of Ireland versus Georgia, March 26th, Aviva Stadium, kick-off 7:45pm. Get your tickets now from just €35 at ticketmaster.ie. Booking fee applies.
Football Index is reinventing football betting. You can buy and sell the world's top players. Their value may go up and down, but it's not over with the final whistle like a regular bet. Football Index, reinventing football betting.
Start building your portfolio today at footballindex.co.uk or download the app now. New customers only, minimum deposit and conditions apply. Gamble responsibly.
Discover Doonshee at St Marnock's Bay, a stunning new development of contemporary A-rated 3 and 4 bedroom homes by D-Res Properties. Located in the coastal town of Portmarnock next to great transport links, the famous Velvet Strand Beach and excellent local schools. Leave the car at home and get a dart to Dublin City in just 25 minutes. Doonshee at St Marnock's Bay launches on March 9th and 10th. Prices from €490,000. Contact Savills New Homes or register your interest at doon-shee.ie.
Monday Night Rugby on Off the Ball.
With Vodafone, official sponsors of the Irish rugby team. Team of us, everyone in.
Yes, our rugby coverage is brought to you by Vodafone, Team of Us, everyone in. And we're live on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. Send us your thoughts. You could be named our Heineken Star Comment of the Week and with yourself some off-the-ball goodies. We have Rory O'Connor from the Irish Independent still on the line from Rome, and Matt Williams with us as well. So Wales beat England and France beat Scotland. Matt, you were talking about how Eddie Jones had dissected the New Zealand game, Ireland's New Zealand game, and then Warren Gatland presumably had dissected the game in Dublin, England's win over Ireland. So the coach cat and mouse game continued over the weekend. Brilliant performance by Wales on the whole.
Magnificent performance. One of the great days at the old Arms Park site there, in the Millennium now, and the Principality. It's changed names, but the spirit that the Welsh showed was exceptional. But it wasn't just spirit and courage. It was smarts. You know, they had to have spirit and courage and the physicality to get the smarts to work. But wow, that was a really intelligent coaching performance by Warren Gatland. So many people talk him down, and that he really had done. He and his staff obviously done a great job on countering the English kicking game that had ripped Ireland and France apart. Liam Williams, rightfully man of the match. Glorious game from him and his two wingers there, but they took England's strength on that kicking game and put it back to them on a counter-kicking and counter-running game. And it was just one of the great days to watch. One of the great days to watch a game of rugby there. Yeah. It had everything. It had drama. It had the passion. It had physicality. It was absolutely hand-to-hand combat. But it also had glorious skills, cross-kicking from Dan Bigger there for that wonderful try at the end. And it had highly highly intelligent rugby from both sides. It was a really, really good day of rugby.
And we saw England under pressure, Rory. Warren Gatland in the build-up to the game made the point that Owen Farrell hadn't been put under pressure yet in this tournament, in this championship, and that was certainly something that Wales did. He was blocked down. There was a kick blocked down on 11 minutes. He had people getting close to him. We saw him make a few uncharacteristic mistakes then. He kicked out in the full very memorably on one occasion. And so Farrell's experience of being pressurised and flustered, probably for the first time across these 3 games, Farrell's experience kind of summed it up for England.
Yeah, it was very reminiscent to me of the 2015 World Cup game between the same two teams. And funny, 4 years on, as we had the next World Cup, what have England really learned about the kind of when the pressure comes on? They're very good front runners. And it's funny, I was talking to someone who's been in and around the England camp yesterday, and he said they've changed since the Dublin game. That there's a kind of a bit of arrogance has come back since they took Ireland apart, and they started to believe a little bit in their own hype, and then they go in and suddenly they're tested, and just the frailties that have probably always been there with this English team, that we've always kind of believed, that probably the things we expected Ireland to expose on the opening weekend kind of, come flooding back a little bit. Like, it was still a very close game right until the end, and it comes down to, some smart decisions and those kind of key moments. But, when they needed composure, Kyle Sinclair lost the rag. When they needed their leader, who's been superb in this tournament, and, don't get me wrong, I think Owen Farrell's a brilliant player, but, he started to look much more human than he has been when he was behind that rolling pack. And funny, Joe Schmidt pretty much called this on Friday. When at his team announcement, he stopped short of actually predicting a Wales win, but he said he'd take Mako Vunipola and Maro Itoje out of that pack, and they're not the same team. And I think he's right, and it just shows that everyone has this reliance on 4 or 5 world-class players, and you start to lose 1 or 2 of them, and you begin to look a much more human team. Wales produced this. They asked the questions that the first 2 teams hadn't asked of England, and England didn't necessarily have the answers. And I suppose it's Ireland's job now in a couple of weeks' time to do the same to them, and try and stop them winning that Grand Slam in Cardiff, which would be no mean feat.
Yeah, Schmidt now has the benefit of being able to pick apart the tape from the weekend just gone. And then, we saw the flags out at the Stade de France, Matt, and blue skies, and we saw Dupont at 9 and Ramos, a proper fullback, at 15, and Fiku in his right position and Uge in his right position. And then what are we generously calling Intermac? Is that a calculated gamble at 10, which kind of worked? Were they more organised? Were they better coached? Or was it just more players in their right positions?
It's a combination of things that you just mentioned there, Jay. Certainly more players in the right position, I think, what was absolutely paramount. Scotland were also significantly weakened.
Yeah.
But what I think is bad news for Ireland, because what we'd hoped Ireland to do against Italy was, okay, here's a weaker side. Let's go out against a weaker side and let's get our systems going. Let's get some rhythm. Let's get moving forward so that when we come up against France in a couple of weeks, we'll be going forward. And Ireland didn't do it, but France did do it against Scotland. Scotland was significantly weak, but France changed gear. They played some really, really exciting, wonderful rugby, and it's rugby that is very different to what we've seen from the Anglo and the Celts, Anglo-Celtic teams. They played a very French style of rugby, which for me I adore, and it was wonderful. Is it successful in the long term? I don't think so, but it's still beautiful to watch. It's still great to see, but they did it, and they did it in style, and I think they've uncovered in Dupont and Intermac a half pairing that will take them forward, because they've just chopped and changed left, right and centre for the last 5 or 6 years. The numbers are quite staggering on who they've used in their 9 and 10. And Ramos at fullback also played very well. But we also have to say, if we come back to our talk about Sexton and Murray, the 8 up front had a really good game. They laid down some platforms. They carried well. There was some good offloading. Laurent at 6, bringing him back, he had a wonderful game. The whole pack really stood out and provided space for Bastro and Fiku to get across the game line. And Dupont really, as the French do, the petit general, their 9 is the man that runs it. Wow, this young man's really an exciting player. Probably the most exciting 9 we've seen you've got to go to Fabien Galtier and people like that. Since I've seen a young guy to really come on the international stage and do what he did, maybe Freddie Michalak. And he's got his head screwed on his shoulders. There's none of the flaky Freddie about him. He's a tough little rooster as well. So it was great for the tournament to see. Probably not good for Scotland, but certainly the pictures of the sun shining in Paris and the tricolours out and the team winning and the Stade de France full. Well, that's great for the tournament.
Yeah, and just at the right time, Rory, for Jacques Brunel as well. You can't say he arrived on this performance with any great method. I mean, it's been a bit mad, really, the last couple of weeks, but they have arrived on it. They will feel better about life very, very quickly, and it does set things up for Dublin in 2 weeks' time. I mean, maybe what this Irish team need is a good stiff test that they go into the game with a little bit of fear as well, just to get them right back to where they were.
Yeah, potentially that could be it. We're kind of hoping there's something there that'll kick them into gear. But yet, France just throw all the pieces up in the air and they seem to come down in the right order this time. They all go and play top 14 this weekend. You don't know who's going to get an injury. You never know. Dupont gets an injury, suddenly Power's back in the mix. They're so difficult to analyse and so tough to predict what's going to happen with them. But they certainly, if they play anywhere near the level that they played, we know they have the players, we know they have the athletes to break teams open. They don't necessarily need a great structure because they can win collisions and get the offloads and cause absolute disarray. And they were good against Wales for 40 minutes as well. So that's, at home at least there's positive signs. And I suppose if there's any solace Ireland can take from the weekend, it's that Scotland were worse than them. And really they're the only team that matter in the Six Nations at this stage because they're the ones that Ireland have to play in the opening World Cup pool game. But it's a real test for Ireland, and it's one that if they do get it over, that's an achievement in itself, and it could be the kind of thing that could kickstart them towards a recovery. Yeah. Final thoughts, Matt. Again, I'm looking for the positives here probably. Maybe something like France and Wales away just gets the Irish players out of their own heads. Less of the navel gazing, less of the what's wrong with us, and actually it's such a big challenge, this 6-day turnaround, France at home, then Wales away. And Schmidt, no doubt, will come up with game plans that maybe just that kind of focus might jilt them into something.
Joe, it's certainly no time to panic. Certainly not saying there's anything bad here, but Joe's game plan wasn't implemented on Sunday because the players kept dropping the ball.
Yeah.
So he was as frustrated as anyone. We wouldn't know what Joe's plans were for that game, apart from the restarts, which they're obviously targeting the front there, where Stockdale scored that try. But apart from that, we couldn't tell what Joe's plans were because the players were so poor. Now, you're going to bring a lot of new players, or not new players, but a lot of the injured boys back in, and boys who were arrested are going to come back in who are quality players. But Ireland, the Irish team, and Rory used the word inhibition, and I thought it was a glorious word from Rory there. They've got to, and the other word with that is fear, whatever. They've just got to get a smile on their face, which Ronan O'Gara said he needed to see in one of his tweets. There was no smiles. They've got to play with some joy. They're going to play at the Aviva. They're representing their country. There's going to be 60 or 40,000 people there cheering for them. They're playing against France. This is a great day. Come on, boys. Forget the past. Forget the future. Play this game for this minute and get a smile on your dial and get out there and enjoy it. Now, that sounds trite, but it's just what this Irish team need. They need Christy Moore to come in and play a few songs for them during the week. They need to forget about all the crap that's gone on before and remember they're really good rugby players. Their form's bad, but their class is permanent. They're classy players. And yes, they can come out and turn it round. But they'll have to because I think France are going to turn up. I think France are smelling a bit of blood in the water. And I think that's going to make for a great game at the Aviva in 10 days' time, 12 days' time.
Yeah, it sure will. On that note, Matt, thank you. Rory, you enjoy Rome. No inhibitions over there, please.
Cheers, Joe.
Cheers, Rory O'Connor from the Irish Independent and Matt Williams. Thanks, fellas.
Thanks, Joe.
Monday Night Rugby on Off the Ball.
With Vodafone, official sponsors of the Irish rugby team. Team of us. Everyone in.
Mattresses-delivered.ie. Nationwide delivery within 48 hours for free. That's mattresses-delivered.ie. Lowest prices guaranteed. Don't forget the hyphen. T's and C's apply.
This spring, clean up with these great savings at Lidl. From Thursday, check out our 3 for €9 mix and match meats like our fresh Irish whole chicken, fresh Irish ribeye steak and our fresh lamb mince. And try our big brand super savers like Fairy or Ariel washing gel, only €5, and Kelkin gluten-free bread, just $2.99. Lidl, more for you.
I've been head of security for my family 35 years. Dog years, yeah. I deal with all the major threats, loud noises, postmen. AA Home Insurance takes care of the rest, house and contents. But that's just a backup. I've totally got this. I've got a nose for trouble. And bacon.
With AA Home Insurance, you can claim up to €3,000 without losing your no-claims discount. Go to the AA.ie. Who's got clever home insurance? Covers one claim in any consecutive 3-year period. Acceptance criteria, terms and conditions apply. AA Ireland Limited Trading as AA Insurance is regulated